Hey guys, what's going on? It's Talk Forest TV. We are back. To my left, we've got Matt.
Hi Dan, hi everybody, how you doing? Happy New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year. Hope you had a good one.
I did, thank you. The disappointment of the Barnsley game being cancelled, but yeah, we had a nice Christmas, a nice New Year, quite relaxed, quite chilled, plenty of football to watch. So yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a shame that Barnsley game got called off, to be fair. I mean, we haven't played since that Huddersfield game where it's been. I probably left there, but probably felt really frustrated.
Yeah, yeah. Huddersfield game was a funny one, wasn't it? Because I think at the time it felt very frustrating, and you could see things that weren't quite coming off and weren't quite happening. Um, but we had more shots in that game than lots of games I can remember over the last
Mm,
12 or 18 months. And we had a lot of shots on target. It felt like we could have worked the keeper more still. But it's a bit of bad luck, a bit of bad finishing, wasn't it? I think,
yeah.
you could see Brennan's head drop with those couple of chances that he missed.
Yeah.
I thought at the time actually the left-footed into the top corner was the easier one, but probably the sort of volley at the back post was certainly closer to goal, wasn't it? And I think it must be horrible to be a what 20-year-old footballer and miss those chances in front of the Trent end and see everybody behind the goal put their heads to their hands and look up at the skies and
Mm,
exclaim something else. So actually, I was really, really pleased that I think I noticed Zinkernagel made a point of speaking to him and clapping the hands and giving him encouragement, which I think
mm,
is what a young player needs.
yeah.
And it certainly, he he didn't drop out the game as a result of those
Mm,
missed chances, and I think he put a bad cross in as well and got a similar reaction, but he came good again later on and
yeah.
created more. And I think that's great for him. I think it's also a sign of that sort of togetherness and team spirit. And it's not a team of individuals looking out for themselves, but more senior pros looking out for the younger player. Um, so yeah, I think I saw quite a bit of reaction to the Huddersfield game. I think quite a lot was actually on reflection. We played really well. We had a lot of chances. We hit the frame of the goal twice. Um, we got mugged a little bit to an extent, although Huddersfield played well, played nice. Um, I think they didn't create us that many problems that weren't of our own making in the second half. There's the one where Joe Worrell miscontrolled a tricky ball and the guy blazed over from from one on one with Samba. But apart from that, I think second half was Forest pushing for the equaliser. Have I lost you, Dan? Are you still there? Oh, there we
Yeah,
go. Sorry, I thought I lost you there for a sec.
yeah,
Um,
I'm celebrating.
the beauties of technology. Um, so yes, I think like on reflection, it's just one of those games. I think it just gets chalked down as one of those games, isn't it? And perhaps highlights the the lack of depth in squad, which we all knew, and which I don't think you know bringing on Cafu, Lyle Taylor, and I can't remember who else came on in the second half, but
Mum,
none of them were players that you would. Oh, and Carvalho,
yeah,
um,
that's it.
none of whom positively impacted the game. None of whom made us more. We got worse after they came on, really, and I think we all know that. The manager knows that, and that's probably why. Well, that's clearly why we're going for some really exciting players in the transfer window,
Mm,
and I think some of the players said it after the game that actually great that the Barnsley game was coming up in a couple of days, in a few days after that, wasn't it? Because
yeah.
play like that against Barnsley, play like that against most teams, we're going to pick up a win. Um, it might do us a favour in that we might have some exciting. We'll definitely have more strength in depth, and we might have some exciting new additions to the squad by the time we play them. By the time we play the next league game, um, I know we probably want to talk about the transfer window again, but I know we've talked about Lyle Taylor before, probably every time we've spoken,
Yeah.
but what is he doing at corners? Like, why at corners, attacking corners? Whose idea is it? Yeah, why is our tallest striker messing about with the goalkeeper, trying to like get under his nose, push him in his neck. It's I sit right, I sit lower Trent, and so he's out of the game. He's absolutely out of the game because when the corner's coming in, he's stood in the goal, so he's out. He's absolutely out of the game. He can't score. All he's doing is, I don't want to swear, mucking about with the goalkeeper and trying to put him off, which never works because we take it short or we don't put it in. Like, what is he think? I just don't understand it. And I think I was going to say, when I was thinking about what we talk about, like, I can't remember the last time a striker scored a headed goal, but I can. I think it was Lewis Graben's away at Huddersfield. But we don't score many. It's not Lewis's forte. We need somebody that can do that. And I think Keenan Davis sounds like, I mean, his goal scoring record isn't great, but I think there's lots of reasons for that, including the amount of game time he's had and some of the teams that he's played in. But he gets good reviews from a lot of Villa fans and from Villa players. And, you know, he's he's making his way in the game. His attributes are what we don't have in the team, and that's holding the ball up, winning headers and winning headers in the box for our strikers. So I think that feels like a good signing, probably to come on, to change, to do something different in the game, and maybe when, like, to give Graben a rest. The guy from MLS sounds like a good addition, an attacking fullback who can play both sides. That feels good. And it was nice of Wayne Rooney to mention that there's a lot of good talent in the MLS that could do a job in the Championship. And then there we are, getting one straight away. I think that's a good example of, like, Dane Murphy knowing his stuff and knowing that market. The move that the club played over Jed Spence, I think, is fantastic, wasn't it? Yeah. And I've tried not to get too involved in, looking at transfer speculation and so on, but like all the papers, the Evening Post and others, reported Chris Wilder says he's coming back to Middlesbrough. Chris Wilder will say a lot of things to get the best deal from Forest and to get the best deal from the EFL in terms of calling off the game. Like, that was what all that was about. That was him grandstanding to get Forest to put the money where their mouth is, probably insert a buyout clause for the end of the season, and to get the EFL to let them call off the game. Otherwise, he's going to mess around with a load of other clubs' plans and those players. Like, I think if Jed went back there, he wouldn't be able to then sign for another club on loan for the rest and play for the rest of the season. Like, nobody wants that. Chris Wilder doesn't want that. He's a decent guy. I live in Sheffield. I hear him on the radio. He's hilarious. He hates Wednesday and he doesn't mind saying it. And he's a football man. He doesn't want to do that to young players. It's ridiculous. But he'll say that to get what he wants, which, we know a Forest manager that used to do that and get what he wanted from the board or from the league or from the chairman or from players, didn't he? And that's what's going on there. But nonetheless, it's a massive bonus to have Jed. We thought he might get recalled because of his form. To have him for the rest of the season is fantastic. And then we've gone in for Josh Bowler. And looks like we've been rebuffed for that, and it looks like we're making firmer bids for Jed Wallace from Millwall, who, he's torn us apart every time we've played against him and against them. And whenever I've seen him play, he looks good, and he's a dynamic, pacey, attacking winger. And what my dad. I like to bring my family into some of these when we have a chat, Dan, and my friends. And sometimes it's to out them and to out their outdated opinions about football or where they're wrong and stuff. Because I hope then everybody can understand that Anthony Chester McCabe doesn't know about football. But my dad, Robert Newton, he's been watching Forest since, I don't know, the 50s, whatever. And he's for the last 5 or 6, maybe even more transfer windows, we're saying, like, why we're buying people that nobody else wants. We're getting people on loan that nobody else wants, and there's a reason why nobody else wants them. They're out of form, they're too old, they're injury prone, and so on. And we've seen that with the likes of the players that we've signed recently. Josh Bowler, Jed Wallace. That's a case of us going in to take other people's best players, and I think that's different. That's different to what we've done. I don't know, for a long, probably since signing a Sombalonga, maybe that sort of time, and then we've not. It doesn't feel like we've done that for a long time. We've paid over the odds for players that nobody else wanted, and been landed with a team of mercenaries who only look out for themselves, and that's just not borne any fruit, has it? So I'm really excited by that. I think that's a really good sign, and I really hope that deal gets through.
I think it, as you said, this January transfer window. I mean, another thing that not really happened over the last couple of years, especially, well, it's been a long while. We're actually getting our transfer window and who we want in early, which it was always Opus better than them in, especially this week, since we've not even had a game since I remember then.
Yeah, definitely. That does seem different, doesn't it? I think, like, don't get me wrong, I love a couple of beers in front of transfer deadline day on Sky Sports News, hoping that we pull off we sign a Aubameyang or something on the last minute of deadline day, as much as anybody. But I think it's a good sign. I think getting that business done early and starting that is just a good sign, a better sign of how the club's been run and how the recruitment policy has been run. Like, Keenan Davis done and dusted straight away. The guy from the MLS, because I can't pronounce his name, done pretty quickly. Yeah, and then clearly we're going in for Josh Bowler. Looks like quite strongly rebuffed. So we had somebody else. We had the next person on the list to go to, and that's it just feels like plans A, B, C, D, E for the different positions where we want to strengthen. And Steve Cook as well. We've not mentioned Steve Cook, which like looking at all the Bournemouth Twitter feeds about Steve Cook, like he's a Bournemouth legend. He's like Stuart Pearce leaving Forest to go somewhere else. Like everybody loves him. Everybody wished him well. Everybody would still like him to be in the side, really. And the last time he played, he was man of the match. And I saw a few people, friends of mine, like chatting about whether does that mean Joe Worrell's out and is in and out. But I think it's a significant. Clearly, we like a back three as our first choice. With wing backs as our first choice formation, and Steve Cook is a significant upgrade on that back three. So I think it's Joe Worrell, McKenna, and Scott and Cook is the back three. I think he's a significant upgrade on Toby Figueiredo, and he's 30. He's not that old for a centre half, is it? And it brings that leadership to the team as well. Experience of getting promoted. Like, how many in our team have got that experience? And that's like we know from like several playoff disasters that there's something in that, isn't there, of knowing how to manage the emotions, of just going through that at the end of the season. Should we get to that, or even like the last few games of the season where we don't concede a last minute equaliser to Derby, or we don't lose away to Bournemouth when we only need a point to be secure. How to manage that. I think he's a fantastic. I think to compare him with the signing of Harry Arter, which I think a lot of us were excited about, was at Bournemouth, is a mistake, because he's just a better player for his position. So I think that's looking good, and I think we can expect more players to come as well, which is brilliant. And some of them will start the Arsenal game, hopefully, which I'm really excited about. How about you?
Same here. I mean, I sort of see why we brought in we set. Hopefully, we do bring him in from the MLS. I felt like that sort of signing. I expected it. No Rakitic being injured there.
Yes, yeah.
I expected something to happen. I mean, it'd be nice to get another fullback in just in case Um, I mean, Lowe's expected to come back quite early, actually.
Yes, he is, isn't he? Yeah, yeah.
And obviously, Dad were meant to be like gone to Afghan, and there was then reports of him leaving. It's like it does make you question: do we need an extra like
Yeah.
body, or Forest actually happy with it? I mean, especially with the other signings, I always had a window, and even if we get another player in before the Arsenal game, I'd be happy
Mm.
because I mean, it just goes to show that sort of difference we are doing.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. I think I've seen a few reports about clubs not wanting to sell a lot of like certain players that you perhaps normally expect them to, because of just like the uncertainty with the COVID situation. Like
Mm,
they players that perhaps they might have considered surplus to requirements, all of a sudden in the match day squad because of
yeah,
positive tests and so on. And I think acquiring good backups in most or all positions is a good policy,
yeah,
especially during these times. Um, the danger is having a bloated squad with lots of players that don't get in match day squads,
right, yeah,
and we end up with a 50 players on the match day program squad list, which isn't what we want. But
no,
I think focusing on like the younger end of the market is it definitely feels like a way ahead where you've got players that are keen to get in and prove themselves.
yeah,
But yeah, I'm very excited. But I'll tell you how excited I am about the Arsenal game, Dan. Um, it's been a struggle for me for the last four, 4 or 5 years really to really get my boy hooked on Forest. So he's been to Forest Gate. We've got a season ticket. He'll come and stuff, but lots of games under previous regimes have been just not exciting, and that gets reflected in the crowd as well. And games where we might win, but we don't. It's not exciting. Like the
yeah,
Huddersfield game, we didn't win, but it was wave after wave of attack and near misses, and that's what you want, isn't it? It makes you feel alive to be a football fan, and and some quality in the game and a way of playing and so on. And so I've had like times where he'd rather do something else and not come, and I've tried to bribe him with sweets and chips on the way in, and so on, and sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But obviously, as any 12-year-old 11-year-old boy, he knows the Premier League players, he knows the international
yeah,
players, and last time he would definitely attend every game if we were in the Premier League. The last time we played Arsenal, it was on a school night, and
oh,
we could have got tickets, and we decided not to because it was a school night and so on, and we ended up going to watch it in the pub, and we had to a pub in Sheffield, so they kicked us out at half time from our first pub, and we had to like get into the sports bar down the road, which is normally like
oh,
men over
really?
the age of 30 only, yeah, and to watch the rest of it there. But it was brilliant, and he loved it. And the one of my biggest regrets as a Forest fan is that we didn't go to that game, because it was it was a big crowd. Arsenal came to town with World Cup winning players in the team, like Mertesacker and people like that in the
Yeah,
team. The atmosphere was amazing. We scored some fantastic goals. Like, how does Lehigh score that volleyed goal against Arsenal? He scored like one goal a season and then run all the way around the pitch when he'd score it. It's phenomenal.
I mean, that game will always be remembered by Lehigh and getting this done as well, which,
Yeah. Absolutely.
well,
Yeah. And like Ben Brereton ran him ragged. Ben Brereton ran the World Cup winning captain. It might have been
yeah,
Mertesacker might be the captain for the Germany team. Absolutely ragged. Um,
that
and
did put another couple of million on his name as well.
absolutely, absolutely. It was phenomenal, and I was gutted that we didn't go. So this game, like it's now obviously it's on a Sunday, so it's a late-ish kickoff on a Sunday. Is essentially a school night, but we have to go,
Yeah,
because I think we have to go, and I'm hopeful that we'll see a good strength Forest team. Um, I think also thinking back to that previous game, I think I can't. I think probably Colin Calderwood away at Man City. Was it Calderwood away at Man City? Maybe it
No,
wasn't.
it's
Maybe it was
Pemberton.
Pemberton.
It was just before when Billy Davies took charge for the
That's
first
right.
time.
Yeah, of course it was. Of course it was. So actually, the only two managers that I can remember taking an FA Cup game seriously and putting out a full strength side as possible in the last God knows how many years was John Pemberton and Gary Brazil
And they
when
weren't
they were in
even,
temporary charge.
yeah,
And they were two of the most memorable games in the last, I
yeah,
don't know, what, 10, 15 years?
yeah,
And Forest fans love the FA Cup. Forest fans love a cup run. You know, I don't know whether some Forest fans would love to win the FA Cup more than the European Cup, would trade them in because it it is just different, isn't it? And the
yeah,
whole city gets like buzzing around the FA Cup, and it's the exposure on television, the exposure, and the all of a sudden we're being talked about alongside Man United and
yeah,
Arsenal and so on, aren't we? And people that don't know football watch the FA Cup, and people that don't know football know that Forest have knocked Arsenal out the FA Cup, and it's. I really hope Steve Cooper like treats it as opportunity for us to, you know,
go
get a
for it.
big scalp, get the fans excited, and to start, and be on telly and get people talking about Forest and start a
Yeah,
cup run. Because I think we've not had a cup run for donkeys, and it's because they've
yeah,
not taken it. Managers haven't taken it seriously, but it can do wonders for a club. It can do wonders for a manager for their longevity at the club. Could do wonders for like individual players. I was listening to this is one of the, or I was reading the text of one of the uh, was it Martin Chipperfield Chipper's
yeah,
interview with Chris Commons about like leaving Forest. Yeah, exactly. And I think Forza Garibaldi interviewed him as well. So about leaving. Oh no, sorry, it was Paul Taylor as well in the Athletic about leaving Forest and the shenanigans around that and around his contracts and all that sort of stuff. And then of course his next game back was the FA Cup game where they beat us
yeah,
3-2, and but that game Derby have that as that's their that's their like most memorable game of, I don't know, top last 20 years or something
yeah,
ridiculous. Like, you know, that's what the FA Cup can do. And like other teams go, have games where they go to Man United and they lose, but they score a wonder goal, and they create excitement and they create a buzz. And I think we just need that, don't we? And
yeah,
whether we get promotion or not, or whether we're getting to playoffs or not, I think we just want that excitement for it. So yeah, I'm really excited for the game. Um, I'm excited to be able to, yeah. I think it's just be great. So I really hope we put a strong side out. I think we will. I think my sense is that it won't risk anybody that's struggling or tired. They'll do all the biometrics to see like, who can't run much more and all that sort of thing. But my sense is that Steve Cooper is really, really quickly getting under the skin of what it means, what the club means to like the fans and the city and stuff. And like, I think you see it with the way he takes in the singing of Mud of Kintyre, and as well as some of the stuff he'll say in the interviews and stuff. And yeah, I think he'll put a good side out for it. I think Arsenal will bring a good side. I think they'll play some
yeah,
of the exciting kids, but like I think they'll put a good team out for it. And I think it's the opportunity for us to visualize what it might be like every week if we get promoted, and teams like Arsenal coming to town or us going to their places with all the cameras and everything and all the media and and all of that. So yeah,
yeah.
excited.
I mean, I was going to talk about that game against Derby when they beat us 3-2. I mean, when we were talking about earlier about Brennan Johnson missing that chance at Huddersfield, it reminded me so much of that Burns chance against Derby. If
Right. Yeah.
it in properly, it would have gone in. I mean, the Arsenal game as well. I mean, I always remember that the games and all that. I mean, it's always been a high scoring game between us and Arsenal the last couple
Yeah,
of
yeah,
games, which it's don't surprise me because both us and Arsenal, more us now than we have been, we
yep,
both do play quite a expensive brand of football.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I always say to that people like I do relate Arsenal and Forest together in one way because we do play that sort of football, and when we do well, we do well. But when we don't do well, it's they both sort of do the similar thing.
Yeah, I think both trying to play expansive attacking football and people switching positions and so on. And we've probably not met since look, we've not had a time where we've played Arsenal where both teams have been trying to do that. Maybe apart
Mm,
from that FA Cup game, which is a bit of a one-off. But you know what I mean? It's like it was boring Arsenal and 1-0 to the Arsenal throughout
yeah,
the 80s and early 90s, wasn't it?
yeah,
And then we've had obviously all sorts going on since then. Um, yeah, I think yeah, I think you're right. I think it could be a really, really good game, a really exciting game, and I think it would be what will be nice and what will be different will be to see us trying to attack them, like
yeah,
us trying to make them worry about us, which we should be able to do. We've got talent and we've got pace and we can worry them. Whereas I think all of the FA Cup games I can remember in recent years where we've come up against Chelsea twice and other teams, we've it seemed like we've just been more concerned with how to keep the score down and how to, and we've put out a load of youngsters and some of them have acquitted themselves really, really well. But we've been more concerned with just, keeping them at bay for as long as possible, haven't we?
yeah,
And not really giving it a go, which has just been disappointing over a number of managers. So yeah, I think both. There's often that debate, isn't there, about like styles in football, and there's that thing. Well, if we play ugly and win, would you
yeah.
mind? But it's not a given that you play ugly and win, is it? Like
Like,
you can try and play attractive football and still lose, and that's rubbish. You don't like it, but if you play rubbish football and still lose, then just everything's rubbish. Like everything about the days, and it's not a guarantee that you'll win by pumping the ball into the box and playing like Cardiff or Sheffield United in the 90s or things like that. It's not a guarantee, but I think either any way of playing football, if it doesn't come off, if it doesn't click on the day, and players don't have good games, can look rubbish and you cannot get the right results. But I think everybody's reaction to the Huddersfield game compared to reactions to losing to Middlesbrough at home um, in Chris Hughton's last game is like the mood is just completely different, isn't it? And
yeah,
um, we're in a bit of a situation like Spurs, where I was listening to like Conte saying like they are where they are. They've not recruited well. The team's gone backwards since last time he was in England, and he's trying to make, first thing is to do his best with what he can. Second is to bring in people to fill the gaps and improve the team. And that's what Steve Cooper's doing, isn't it? He's done a fantastic job with what we have.
yeah,
Um, and but that's, isn't, we're not going to win every game because of where we are where we are. But bringing in these extra players hopefully means that we just start to improve that win ratio and it pays off more often than it doesn't.
yeah. I mean, I was going to touch on about the sort of like not let me on touch on transfers again. I mean, especially with the incomings and with the like who were getting that, but on the outgoings, I mean, probably got player in that with like in the bum side and that who we got. Do you feel like that with you more the youngsters? Which I know Stevie Cooper's like bring youngsters through.
Yep.
Can you see like the couple of youngsters going out on loan and actually getting that experience for when they do come back? It will benefit them. Like David Taylor, who's just came back from injury, got his first international call up, got his cap. Do you feel like him going out and then will benefit him and give him more of a chance in the long term instead of like playing untrade-free football. Not saying that untrade-free football is
Yeah,
not. I mean, it's probably better quality than it was since he gone into Category One. But do you feel
yes,
like him getting that sort of regular game time, probably in like League One, will
yep,
benefit him in the long term?
yeah, I think so. I think it's an interesting question. You're very right that now we've got the Category One status, we get a better we get better opposition for those
Mm.
under 23 players, right? So that's definitely would be something to say. Actually, we could keep them rather than loaning some of those players out because they'll be playing against better players that have come through Category One academies. So the way of both teams playing is more in line with like how we'll play and probably how a lot of other teams will play. But we know that what we need, what will benefit, I guess what a soft underbelly of Forest has always been the teams like Cardiff, hasn't it? Or like Sheffield United, Wimbledon, going like back to the 80s. We always lost to Wimbledon in the FA Cup, it seems, in the 80s, and you don't get that way of managing or being able to play in those sort of games where you've got a tight ground, long throws coming, bombing in with players behind him, things being thrown probably onto the pitch or and seasoned pros, leaving the foot in. Like, you don't want to see players injured by that, but the dark arts of the game and some of the ones that are dark and not arts, just that sort of physical and emotional brutality that you get that I think is beneficial. And I think you hear a lot of players talk about that, the
Yeah,
where where a win matters or or defeat matters. I mean, don't let Andy Reid hear me say this, but they don't matter as much for the under 23 level, right? But
mm,
if they're playing Notts County or Chester or Harrogate Town or Grimsby or something like that, it matters
yeah,
whether we win a game, and the fans of those teams will let the players know that it matters, whether
yeah,
they're their own players or on loan players, on social media or in the news or whatever, or in the ground. I saw Norwich fans chanting, picking on Gilmore, who's on loan, like a young kid on loan from Chelsea, chanting, "Send him back to Chelsea," singling him out because the whole team is ill-equipped for Premier League football. Like, that happens, and that, I guess, the questions that the team at Forest will need to ask are, what's the at this stage in each player's development, what is it specifically that they need, and
yeah,
is it being exposed to that sort of football,
yeah,
that I think, and that sort of environment, and the dressing room as well, and yeah, and perhaps playing with players that haven't come through the slightly cosseted academy system as well. Just like life skills, it's a bit of a
yeah.
step up, isn't it, and a bit of a change as well.
I
Um,
mean, as well, I don't know if you noticed it, but the under-23s are playing in the senior cup as well. This is not senior cup, which I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's a big thing, I think, because obviously you get the local teams excited, but I mean, to beat Kimberley Miners Welfare in the on
yep,
penalties, in front of 700 fans. I mean, for them it's brilliant, but then just to get that sort of experience playing at a local side like
yes,
Kimberley and the facilities and how they play and the pictures and all that and the sort of how they do play. I'm not saying that they play bad, but they're probably at a different standard. It will benefit them more genuinely, but
yeah,
and make them more appreciative of where they are.
yeah, definitely. And I think that's why we've seen like a number of Premier League clubs in the Papa John's Trophy
Yeah,
against League One clubs, and so they get that. But I guess some of the downside can be that I mean, it's definitely better than playing in front of no fans in games that don't matter to anybody. Um, I guess for a lot of the teams that they're playing against, the games don't matter still as much as their league games and so on.
Yeah.
But I can see why clubs have pushed for that to be included in those competitive matches, because it definitely makes a lot of sense. I think what I'm really hopeful and actually quite faithful that we do is that we pick the right clubs with the right playing styles and the right types of managers for our loanees. I feel pretty confident that we will do that if we do send people on loan. And I think like we've seen that the other way from like Joe Garner coming to us. Like it seems like, the way the way his role in the team, the way we're trying to play under Chris Hughton and under Steve Cooper, to be fair. And the way the club was looking to run itself and, just look, it was attractive for Manchester United and has a big bearing on where they want to send their players. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I
Yeah.
think it'd definitely be good for us to be doing that. I think we are. I think we are doing that, and I think um, yeah, hopefully we continue to that and just make the best decisions from the players. So I think Dale could be one that would potentially benefit going out on loan. I think I've not seen a lot of him, to be fair. Obviously we're light in attacking in centre, in strikers. I don't think he's made the bench. It made the matchday squad this season, and we've had Will Swan. Obviously has made the matchday squad on a few occasions last season. I think the feeling is that they're both not quite ready yet. Not quite ready yet. Um, might be that we see them in against Arsenal, and that's the way to test them and see. But I'd be keen. I mean, it's great for them to get that, but like I said before, keen for us to get that, have the best side as we can out there. I think in terms of like some of the other potential outgoings, obviously there's players like, I think, I'm sure we're all thrilled to see Harry Arter return to the club, aren't we?
Yeah.
So that's like, there's a number of players from that sort of splurge of 40 new signings in the summer that we probably, just want to say goodbye to. I'd be. It doesn't feel like we're getting ready to sell like Joe Worrell or Brennan Johnson, who are the two that have been talked about a lot. I think I saw a report today that I don't know how accurate it is, that like 50 million's been cited as
Yeah.
what any team would have to come up with to buy Brennan. I
Yeah.
think somebody I think somebody might I think a Brentford or Newcastle might go for that. It's not a lot of money in Premier League terms. Is it like I think for me, for like for a championship club not wanting to sell one of their prized assets, that feels like a little bit undervaluing him,
Yeah.
because I think it's not a big push for some teams to go to 15 if they've already been thinking about 10, when you get, I don't know what, 40, 50, 60 million pounds for finishing last in the Premier League, and they're desperate to stay there.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I don't think we're not. I don't think any of the business that we're seeing at the moment, or any of the plans, are to lose like Joe or Brennan. But I think I think for Brennan in particular, somebody might really test our resolve, and it might come down to like what the player and his dad thinks about the situation. Like both seem really, really happy at Forest, and Brennan's getting game time, which would he if he went into the Premier League now? Um, Possibly not. But possibly there's more chance of him doing so with the COVID situation than without the COVID situation. And like we talked about last time, like clubs will still be in for Brennan in the summer, and he could probably have a pick of better Premier League clubs to go to if somebody came in and matched our asking price and he wanted to go and we weren't in the Premier League. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think we might see some outgoings of some of those younger players. I think we might see some outgoings of like some of the more like senior players that came in, like Gaten Bong, Cafu potentially, Carvalho. I'm going to say it. If anybody will take him off us for the wages he must be on, my opinion, he doesn't add. I've not seen him add anything to a game of football since we played Middlesbrough, who had nothing to play for 4 games from the end of the season.
Yeah.
He doesn't do anything. I think we need to cut losses and get rid. And every time he gets 5 minutes, 10 minutes, half an hour, everybody's going, "Oh, now he needs more. He needs more game time. He needs more game time." But he just doesn't do it. And like, if anybody wants to argue with me, I'm on Twitter at Maximo Newton, and we can have it out on Twitter. But I think it's not cut out for the Championship. We had our pants pulled down by the people that sold him to us. We need to offload. He's a nice guy, but he's not for us. We need to offload.
Yeah. What the scoreline will be on Sunday, just around it all
Yeah,
off.
I like finishing the scoreline. I am going to go for an exciting 3-2.
Ooh, goals.
Yeah, goals, and it will be. I think it will be. I think we'll be talking about how many more millions Brennan Johnson's worth, because
Yeah.
I think he'll shine, and I think he might bag 1 or 2. And we've got a good history of good young creative players scoring the goal of the round in the 3rd round. So I'm going to say Brennan Johnson, goal of the round.
Ooh. There, you heard it first, guys. If happened, this clip gonna be shown quite a few times.
Yeah.
So I'd like to say thank you for Max for coming on.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
It's right. So I'd like to say thank you for watching, guys.